Vijayalakshmi TC, Advocate. This video is based on the Indian Contract Act. Indian Contract Act is the subject of study for various courses such as LLB, BBA, BCom, MCom, CA Foundation and various other courses. So I prepared this question paper, I prepared this video purely on the examination point of view, referring to various question papers of the various universities such as Kerala University, Calicut University, MG University, Kannur University and other universities also. Now we'll take up what is defined contracts. There is almost a question which appears in many of the question papers. An agreement enforceable by law is a contract. So an agreement plus enforceability. I'll give an example, that is Mr. A offers to sell his house to B for 50 lakhs and B was ready, B accepted that offer, but he said, I want 6 months time. So they took a stamp paper of 500 rupees value, they wrote all the conditions and both of them signed and also witnesses also signed. So there was a perfect agreement. Now after 6 months, B took a loan and approached A for registration, but A said, no, I'm not going to register, I'm not going to sell my house. So here B was very angry and he approached a lawyer and showed this agreement. The lawyer said, it's a perfect agreement and it is enforceable by law. So an agreement which is enforceable by law is a contract. Suppose that agreement was written on a 100 rupees stamp paper, you cannot enforce it. Suppose one of the parties, A or B, is a minor, you cannot enforce it. So an agreement enforceable by law is a contract. We have to write 2 more points to complete this question. See, first of all, when A approaches B, A makes a proposal. Will you buy my house for 50 lakhs? That is a proposal. Will you marry me? That is a proposal. In the same way, will you buy my house is a proposal. Which B accept? Yes, B said, I will buy. So here, a proposal when accepted becomes a promise. So you can get one word answers also based on this. A proposal when accepted becomes dash, it becomes a promise. So here A is promising B to sell his house 50 lakhs. B is promising A to give rupees 50 lakhs. So here promises or set of promises forming consideration for each other is called an agreement, section 2E. So consideration means something in return. So here A has promised to give the house, that is consideration for B, and B has promised to give 50 lakhs, that is consideration for A. I think it's clear, children. Now the next is promise. A proposal when accepted becomes a promise. So these 3 points will go to get a good answer and will get full marks for that answer. Now the next is essential elements of a valid contract. Essential elements of a valid contract. So we'll see the first point, there must be an offer and acceptance. Just now we have seen A is making an offer and B is accepting the offer. So that is a good contract. And the next is there must be mutual consent of the parties. What do you mean by mutual consent? I'll give an example. See, A has got 2 cars, that is 2 Maruti cars. A is offering B, see, will you buy my car? And B said, okay, I'll buy it for 1 lakh. Both of them agreed. But A had in his mind, the black Maruti, but B thought of white Maruti. So there is no identity of mind between them. Identity of mind means there's a Latin word, consensus ad idem. That is also asked as a one-word answer. So there is no consensus ad idem between the parties. So there is no contract between them. Now, that is the point on mutual consent. And this third point is there must be an intention to create a legal obligation. What is meant by this? Intention to create a legal obligation. Here in the first example, when A approached B, will you buy my house? And B said yes. Here in their mind there is an intention to create a legal obligation. So B went to the court also. First of all, when you are buying some property for a 50 lakh, you will take all the papers and go to the lawyer. And lawyer ask the lawyer whether these papers are good, they are valid papers. And the lawyer will give an advice. So there is an intention to create a legal obligation. That is very important. But if I invite you for dinner tonight, and all of you hired a vehicle, there to 50 people of you hired a vehicle and came to my house. But very unfortunately, you found that my house was locked and I had forgotten about the dinner, and you got very angry. Can you go to a lawyer and file a case against you for getting compensation? I say no, because there was no intention to create a legal obligation. It was only a social domestic agreement. That is a key word, social domestic agreement. So there is an important case law on this point, very old case law, 18th century case, but still it is authority even now. Balfour versus Balfour. What is this Balfour versus Balfour? Balfour is Mr. Balfour was a civil servant, and his wife Mrs. Balfour, both of them went to London for a tour. From London, what happened? This wife fell ill and the husband had to return. What to do? Now, husband told the wife, don't worry, very loving husband, don't worry, I will give you £100 every month for a treatment or all the expenses. And the wife was undergoing treatment at London, but the husband forgot to pay anything to the wife. He just forgot. Now the wife was very disappointed and she wanted to file a case against husband. She went to a lawyer, but the lawyer said, unfortunate, very unfortunate, you will not win the case. But still she filed a case and she lost the case, because the husband and wife, when they entered into this agreement, there was no intention to create a legal obligation. Of course, the wife could have filed a case for maintenance. She's not looking after, I am his lawfully wedded wife. She would have won the case, but here she did not do that. So in such a case, there was no the court said there was no intention to create a legal obligation. Now, the next point is that the fourth point is there must be free consent of the parties. What do you mean by this free consent? Free consent means, I'll give an example. Mr. A is asking Mr. B, will you sell my house to you? Will you sell your house to me? We said, no, I cannot sell my house. Now A took a pistol, he had written an agreement, stamped agreement, he asked B to sign the papers. We were so afraid and he signed all the papers. And immediately he got a copy of it, he went to the lawyer and he showed the lawyer. Lawyer said, okay, you signed this under coercion, am I correct? Yes. Can you say it before the court? Yes, I will say it before the court. I'll say in the witness box. So the lawyer said we can avoid that contract. So it becomes a voidable contract. You can avoid it. So in the case of a valid contract, there should be a free consent of the parties. And the fifth point, the parties must be competent to contract. What is meant by this competency? Competency means you should have eligibility to contract. What is this eligibility? You should be attain the age of majority, you should be of sound mind, and that 18 years, sound mind, you should not be insane. And the third point, not disqualified from contracting by any law to which he is subject. What is meant by this? You are disqualified by Indian law if you are a convict. Who is a convict? A convict means a person undergoing imprisonment and is punished by a court. He committed a murder, he is punished by a court, 10 years rigorous imprisonment. He is a convict. And when he comes out on parole and he tries to sell off his property, and if you buy for a very attractive price, ultimately you lose your money, you lose your land, everything you lose. A convict is not competent to contract, he has no eligibility. So also an insolvent person also cannot enter into a contract. You know, insolvent person who's suppose a person having 10,000 rupees asset and 50,000 rupees liability. And he's not paying his debts. He can be, a court can declare him as an insolvent. Then the next 2 points you can learn together: lawful object and lawful consideration. What is meant by consideration? Consideration means something in return. So here, lawful object and lawful, say A tells B, you go and kill C and come, I will give you 10 lakhs. So B immediately went and killed C and came to A for 10 lakhs. But A did not give anything. So can B file a case against A and recover? Never, because the object, killing somebody, murder, committing a murder, is not a lawful object. And the consideration, you got it, you are going to get it, is also not lawful. So here consideration means killing, getting C getting killed is consideration for A, and for B it is 10 lakhs is consideration. So consideration is not lawful. And the next point, the agreement must not be declared void by law. What is meant by that? Certain agreements are declared void by law. What kind of agreements? Agreement in restraint of marriage. See, A tells B, see, you don't marry throughout your life. I will give you 50 lakhs. So B said, okay, I won't marry. You give it an undertaking. So he took a paper and wrote, see, I won't get married throughout my life, and gave it and took 50 lakhs. And after some time, he went and married going to marry a very beautiful girl. Now A wanted to stop that marriage. He took the agreement to the court. Can he stop that marriage? No, never. Because agreement in restraint of marriage is void. So also agreement in restraint of trade. So you don't do that job, you don't do that business, I will give 10 lakhs. Such agreements are all void. Then the agreement must be certain. Certain means, suppose I say I want 100 kilograms of tea dust. I just say tea dust. The tea merchant has such a lot of tea dust, Monica Superfine, Brook Bond, Tata's, they have different kinds, different prices also. So he did not specify what. It is not certain. The agreement is not certain. Hence it is void. Then the last point, the performance must not be impossible. Suppose a person tells, see, I will make the sun rise in the west tomorrow. You give me 50,000 rupees. Such agreements are totally impossible. So it is totally void. It cannot be enforced. So these are the 10 points. So if a question comes, what are the essential elements? Anyway, you can check the question paper. Many question papers have got this question. If you write all these 10 points, you will get full marks. Okay, thank you. So if you have understood very well, you please understood the concepts, you can write in the comment box. If any doubts, I shall clear your doubts, and you may subscribe it.